Intermediate graphic design class, welcome to what could be the final video for this semester. Oh, but I have the wrong date. Okay, so for May 11th, first thing I want to say is congratulations to the three finalists, Manel, Cynthia, Sarah, for being our finalists for the student handbook cover. I was told that we would know already who the winner was. Hopefully, we'll know by Monday. Whichever one of the three of you are picked, just know that you need to make yourself available to continue working with the graphics department just so that you can get the final cover to them. So far all they have is just that PDF that we made of the lower resolution ones. So hold on to your files, and but that would be great to get like 10, 20,000 copies of that made and you to get a couple for your portfolio. In last week's video, I went over how to fix that limit error, user limit error. So check out last week's video if you should encounter a problem when trying to upload the files this week. Now, you may run into a problem where the file is just too big for the post. And as I talked about, you can just make a reduced size version of that file just so you can post, just so that I can look at it, and then keep the larger one, the one that is closer to 1 meg, and actually use that to upload to the contest. So just as a reminder, here is the video that talks about the size of the files and how to reduce them. Inside of Prof. Steve G, under instructional videos, under turn in files, last week I added 2 new videos to here which go over different ways of combining images inside of Photoshop so that you could really show off your design for the contest by including one image that contains multiple views of your mailer piece. But also, starting at 7 minutes in on the second one, I talk about how to check the file size, the differences between image size and file size so you don't get confused by that one, and then how to reduce from the image in a methodical way so you're not just wiping it down to where it looks pixelated or nasty, but getting it smaller so that you could upload it onto a website or a discussion post. And if you have trouble with the discussion post, I would say if you have at least 3 meg worth of information, 1, I know I've received files that big, and 2, 3 meg is decent for viewing on the web. But again, when you upload the one to the contest, make sure that you give them the highest resolution that you can get away with, or the most pixel dimensions you can get away with, which means you'll have an image that when you save it ends up just under 10 meg. In Canvas, under discussions, the post is there for the AP Tech final image, and then just make sure you pay attention to the size and exactly what I'm looking for on this, or I should say really what the contest is looking for on this. And I believe the last 2 emails I sent out, and I'll include it again in this week, I put the link to the rules for the contest, but the important thing regarding that image is that it is an image that shows off the final project. It is not a working file or just a file of your Illustrator project converted to a JPEG. Okay, and then shifting gears now to talk about our final class for the semester. The class, even when it was live, was a 2-hour slot for the final from 5 to 7 p.m. on May 18th. The only thing that'll change now is that will be on Zoom. And yeah, I already talked about that. And then I want to give a quick lecture on the WordPress site as far as the aesthetics. I know you have the videos, and then you have all the resources on WordPress.com for making all the necessary changes to your site. But I just want to give you a lecture and touch on things that could cause you to lose points on that project if you don't pay attention to them. So as I said earlier, this may be the last weekly video, but do check your emails. If there's anything important, I will email it to you. If there's anything that I think I could explain better in video form, I will add one more video. And then just make sure that you do pay attention to that start time. It's 5 p.m., which is a half hour earlier than we've normally been doing. So don't go on autopilot and tune in at 5:30. It is 5 p.m. Okay, so now let's talk about WordPress as far as the aesthetics and the logic behind the design of a portfolio site. And I've included the main bullet points inside of the announcement for the final class. So I may as well just do this in order. So final class, May 18th. Recall, nothing may be turned in after this class meets. If you have any work that you can still turn in, meaning that it's less than 3 weeks late, email it to me and I will respond with received. If you do not get that email that I received it, send it again. If it should fail for a third time, send me an email without the attachment saying, Steve, I'm trying to do this, and we'll figure out another way for you to get that to me. Shouldn't be a problem, but just don't want anyone to not get credit for something that they want to turn in just because it got lost in the shuffle somehow. The final exam is the presentation, and I'm emphasizing the word presentation, of your WordPress portfolio, because you will also receive a project grade for the portfolio site. So this is a good way to boost your grade. 10% of your grade is your final, and as long as you give a good presentation, follow the guidelines for what you should be presenting, you should end up with a good grade for the final. And then the WordPress, I'll take a site itself, I'll take a little bit closer look at. So just remember to post your URL before 5 p.m. since the class starts at 5 p.m. sharp. The requirements for the portfolio site is A, to remove that blog unless it makes sense on your site. And not that it would make sense in the future on your site, that it makes sense at the time you show it to us and you turn it in. A contact page properly set up with a contact form, and then a portfolio that contains these minimum requirements. So you will show the resume that you did in this class, and like I said last week, remove it after class is over because digital resume just doesn't really make sense. The plant sale poster from this class, the poster or other contest that you joined earlier, like the t-shirt or the logo, and then the student handbook cover, and the final image for your AP Tech contest. Now, recall that the presentation is your final. So I basically already said that. And then here is a list of items that could reduce your grade for your project grade of the site. So I'll build the lecture into this. A portfolio site is one of those things that really goes under that old adage of form follows function. You don't want a portfolio site that's all animations going on all over the place and crazy stuff happening, you know, big flashy animated buttons and stuff like that. You want the person, and normally that person, your target audience, would be a creative director that you're looking to hire you. If you're a freelancer, it would be a client looking to hire you. But I consider the highest standard in this, the one that I grade from, would be a creative director, someone who knows the business, someone who doesn't have a whole lot of time to look at your work but needs to be able to make a decision pretty quickly whether you're coming in for that interview to get that job. So you don't want it to be distracting. Good design says that your portfolio is what shines, not the site itself. So most of the time, a good graphic designer portfolio will be maybe just like mostly black and white, other than the portfolio pieces. Now, some people think it should have just a bit more pop than that. So what you'll see is a lot of them that are mostly black and white, but there's one, like maybe your logo and your name are red, and maybe the button page that you're on is red, or or some other vibrant color, just to give the site itself just a little something. But it's really about the work. If you have a big header that pushes your content below the fold, that's another item that you could lose points for. The adage in newspapers, was that the newspaper gets folded, so whatever is above the fold is what shows in the news rack, and that's what gets people to buy the paper. So similarly, when you go to somebody's website and the header is so big on the website that it pushes you down. So imagine there's like a big image in here and everything is pushed down to the point where we've got to scroll to get to the content. That was my furry doorbell. Okay, so you basically want it when someone enters your website that they can see all of the navigation and the important content for each page. Now, scrolling is not unusual in a website or clicking on things to bring up more content, but the important thing for that page should be easily seen right away. And similarly, navigation that is just too much work for the user, especially a prospective employer, you're going to lose people right away. If they run into any problems on a website, whether they're trying to buy something or looking to hire someone, if they're like, wait, how do I get to the contact? You lost them. So, and especially a designer is going to say, well, if I couldn't find a way to get a hold of this person on their website, they're probably not a logically minded graphic designer. Okay, a site that screams, I'm a student could make you lose points. So don't list your projects by class. You never really need to mention a class. You generally just want your image to pop up here. If you put a description of the image, that's great, and you can mention that the object of this design was to do such and such, which would imply that it was a class thing. But if you say GD240, do you think that any employer other than one that maybe went to Saddleback College would have any idea what you're talking about? So if you do that, it's just wasted conversation, basically. Even though your website's not a conversation, it creates a conversation in the person's head and it creates confusion. And then, as I already mentioned, you need a contact page with a contact form. You never want a page that says, hey, to contact me, here's my email, because you'll get so much spam from the spam bots that crawl the web just looking for open emails. So we always use contact forms so that the person, and everybody knows how to use a contact form. It's just the way things are done. Okay, so this may be the last video. I wish you a great summer, and I will talk to you at 5:30 p.m. May 11th, and then 5 p.m. May 18th.